Welcome, everyone. It's Freedom Friday. And as the host of Freedom Friday, I get to help people discover the freedom they want to experience in their life. My name is April Ballestero. I am a leadership expert and getting to speak with a marketing expert. Mr. Mark Combs is a beautiful resource for so many individuals that are beginning their business or getting to a place where they've been in business for quite a long time and they are wondering why they're feeling invisible. Mark, what causes that?
Well, I found a couple of different things. Usually it's one of three things. Either they don't know who they are, they don't know who they're speaking to, and they don't have a single message that they're trying to convey. If any of those is out of whack, then typically what any marketing efforts that they do are typically being missed completely in the market.
And you've had years of experience with this. So this is something you've been watching happen for a long time, correct?
Yes, I've been in the creative business for about 30 years now.
Just a few. And you happen to work with a pretty large firm during the daytime that you actually serve many
Right.
companies, right?
Right. I'm a creative director for Sean Tracy Associates out of New Hampshire, and we serve banking and hospital clients, and then some product clients too. We have ability and things like that. So we serve a wide range of companies,
including the extra effort you do for your church and your freelance work that you serve for businesses that truly want to be seen.
Correct.
And you and I align on this at a very high level because that is my ideal client, is somebody that is ready to be seen, valued, and heard in their individual business, as well as their team and as well as their company. And I get to lead that across the nation and almost international now. So actually literally international. So the exciting thing is one of the gifts that we've decided to do is to meet with experts and help people understand some very simple tools to get clear about the fact that they have multiple departments. When they begin a business, they don't realize they have a ridiculous amount of departments. And when you're a one-man show, you get to be the head of all those departments and somebody gets to drop the ball somewhere, right? So as an individual that has walked this journey for many years, I can resonate and have a clarity of what questions to ask. Yet I'm not the expert when it comes to marketing. I will tell you that straight up right from the beginning. So, and I've spent years working through it. So I'd love to talk with you about some of the specific things that you've shared that you're going to give us a tool to give a download to everybody. And that's about, how do you become a design expert when you're not a design expert, when you really need to have some marketing skills?
I'd be glad to help.
That's exciting. Mark, you were to say something else about that.
No, I was just thinking that we all have our expertise, and I tell clients all the time, it's like, I am counting on you to be the expert in your area, and I'll be the expert in my area. And together we get to actually do things that we couldn't imagine before. It's just, we have to count on each other to do it.
And that really operates in that concept of being collaborative and understanding that, and ideally we're working in a world and a business community that is collaborative, and you want to learn that each of us have our areas of expertise. And so there was a whole list that you had shared in the aspect of design. And are you ready to walk through some of those?
Yeah, I'm glad to.
Awesome. So one of them, and do you want to start with the aspect of that customer first? Or where would you like to start?
Sure. No, I always start any design project, whether it's a brochure or a catalog or whatever it is, logo, it doesn't matter what it is. You always start with who you're speaking to. And the more you know about them, the better. If you can actually know the customer, it's better than actually knowing about the customer. There's a huge difference between knowing about them and actually knowing them. If you can sit down and speak to them face to face, it'll go light years ahead of just knowing their demographics and psychographics. So the rule number one on designing anything is make it about the customer. It's not about you. You might be selling services, but it's not about you. It's about the solution that you can give them.
And Mark, will you say that like an example of one of the clients that they were sharing the wrong message. One of the clients that you've been thankful to work with, they were putting out a message and they were missing the problem they were solving of who they knew. Do you have any examples of that?
Ooh, good question. Um, well, I wasn't prepared for that. One of them, I worked for a company out of Texas, and it was a nutrition company. They created freeze-dried meals that people could take camping.
Oh.
They wouldn't have to worry about prep and all that stuff. They just boil water and it made the meal for them in the bag. And the problem they had with that was they were all about sharing the features of the product, and they didn't actually convey what does that give the camper. So there was no benefit involved. People tend to focus on, it's got this many bells and this many whistles and this many slides and all this kind of stuff. And people don't translate that into what's in it for me. People are always looking for what's it to me. Who cares? And if you start with the message of here's the problem we solve, and if they want to know more, they can dig out the rest of it. It's like, oh, well, wow, it does this and this and this. But the problem that it solves is evident up front. It makes it so much easier to sell.
One of my clients we teach our team that we get to coach together. She is the CEO and she hired me to come in and help her. And she literally says, everybody's got the radio station. What's in it for me, whether we like it or not? And you use the terminology of opening the loop. Will you talk a little bit more about that when we're getting into that problem solving?
Yeah. Excuse me. Opening the loop is starting, let's say, a story or starting a vein of conversation and not finishing, not giving a resolution. In our brains, we automatically go, what, you start listening deeper and deeper because the loop's not closed up. We don't have the solution to the story. That gives them an added interest in what you're saying next. And then if you close the loop at the end of it, then they're satisfied. They don't walk away going, well, I wish he would have known the answer to that. Or maybe they subconsciously are thinking they don't fulfill their promises. So you have to close the loop, but if you don't open the loop, there's no added interest.
And that's causing the curiosity that you're looking for because one of the things that you talked about as well is understanding that you want to be very specific in the problem, the solution in one aspect. Don't attempt to solve 15 problems at the same time.
Right. I have a rule of one. And the rule of one is you have one customer that start talking to one specific person if you can. Stephen King writes to his wife. He doesn't write for everybody. He writes for his wife. So you have one customer, you have one solution that solves one problem, and then you have them take one action. It's the rule of one. If all of your stuff is pointed to the rule of one, there's no confusion. You don't have them go to the website or sign up for a newsletter or join us on Facebook, or give them one action, give them one problem, give them one solution.
And it clarifies the path, right? It helps them be purposeful about what is the real benefit to them, what's in it for them, as we talked about, and they are able to self-identify themselves in the marketing.
Exactly. Yes. That when you speak to that single customer, they identify with that single customer. There's a saying, the more personal equals the more universal. And when you speak to that one person and solve their problems, everybody else around them feels like, oh, he's talking directly to me.
And you used another terminology once before in one of our groups that we were in, and you said there needs to be a visceral reaction, a physical visceral reaction. Will you speak a little bit more about that?
Okay, there's a term in psychology called kinesthetic empathy. And what that does is when you hear or you see, like in a movie, you see somebody get punched and you're going, ow, that's kinesthetic empathy. So what happens is when you tell a story or you give them a problem that you're solving, you want to make it so emotionally tied, triggered, that they actually feel the pain. And if once they feel the pain and you offer a solution, they're more apt to actually take that solution because they felt the pain. Does that make sense?
There's a deep connection to it because,
Exactly.
and one of the things that I've taught for years now, I wrote about in the book Slaying the Onion, is that our heart, mind, body, and soul need to be in alignment. And the more we help our teams, our clients, our consumers, whatever that is for you, get connected to that, the more they can open up layers to have communication to you. And understanding what question to ask helps you open up that layer. And your expertise is helping people do that on paper.
Yeah. And well, and in mass. So you're doing it in everything, both television, radio, TV, sorry, print, out of home, direct mail, whatever it is. You're doing that in mass. That's what marketing is all about. It's doing as much as you can, and then sales is all about the one-on-one thing. So
thank you for defining that and clarifying that
sure.
your goal with marketing is to be able to multiply yourself, is be able to get the message out to as many audiences as possible, which then goes back to, and just to align everything we've talked about, as the expert, you get to be helping person get from invisible to being seen, valued, and heard by the client that they want to touch, so that the client understands the pain they're solving, the benefit they're getting from the resolve of that pain. And then they get to, it's a couple pieces of the details that we wanted to cover in your beautiful checklist, is
Oh,
that the design process has fonts and hierarchies, etc. You mentioned in your checklist. Will you talk a little bit about that?
sure. This is a pretty big topic. You can spend years studying this stuff. But the checklist that I gave you it was just a real cursory look at things that I go through in my brain, and it's kind of second nature to me now, but it's one of those things that I go through, and I make sure that these 10 things are in line. And you mentioned visual hierarchy. There's a saying that if you emphasize everything, nothing is emphasized. And what that means is, let's say you have a sheet of paper and you take a highlighter and you start highlighting all the nouns, and then you highlight all the verbs, and then you really want to highlight the adjectives because they're important, and then we want to highlight the adverbs because they're pretty good too. By the time you're done, the only thing that's not highlighted are the ofs, these, and the ands. Okay, so when you highlight everything, nothing is highlighted. Okay, so visual hierarchy is, excuse me, visual hierarchy is knowing what's important and then designing accordingly.
Mhm.
So when you have a list of things that goes in this flyer, choose number one, number two, and number three. Make number one the most evident and maybe the biggest, maybe not. Number two is second in line. Number three is third in line, and everything else needs to be subordinate to those three things. Usually number three is your logo as a general rule.
Isn't that interesting? So that is a norm that happens in that process.
Yeah, it happens with me. I don't know if it's ever universal, but it happens with me. It's like, okay, number three, it's the logo.
Has to be there.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things on the checklist is so ridiculously simple and yet so absolutely required. I cannot tell you how many pieces I have put out that we thought we proofread. We did a proofread on it, and we still
Yeah.
find something after the fact. And
Oh
it
yeah.
awes me how many times you can read something and completely miss something because your eyes have already seen it. And
Oh, when you spend so many hours designing something, I've had simple words like cat in a headline, and I look at it and go, is that spelled right? And I have to have somebody else look at it because my brain is so focused on other things and everything that I have to have another set of eyes look at it. So don't think that you're good enough to proofread your own work, because we're not. And it helps. Another set of eyes is always welcome.
after 20 plus years in the multitude of industries, including the real estate industry, I used to teach contracts years ago, and I would tell people read everything from the right to the left instead of the left to the right, so that you understand that you don't, because a lot of us read very quickly and we can read we'll read letters, not the whole word. And
Yep.
so there's great awareness in that. So you've covered a whole lot in one document. And as you said, there's a ridiculous amount that goes to each specific aspect of it.
Yes. I also have a principles checklist that I go through. I call it the crucible, where I just go through the 5 principles of design and make sure that each one is covered. And if I do that on a piece by piece basis, my work tends to be better. So just, and that's deeper than just the checklist of, did I use only 2 fonts, or did I have enough white space? White space is another issue that's really important. If you fill every inch of a piece of paper with information, none of it gets read. It's kind of the partner to the, if you emphasize everything, nothing is emphasized. If you don't give it room to breathe, they won't read any of it.
You talk
So
about that in the margins too, right? Is the
yeah,
awareness of having
margins
that.
and white space.
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're very important.
Mark, how do people reach you? You have been a beautiful gift of wisdom, and it's evident that when you invest in a company, you want to be in a relationship. It's something that you truly take time to be genuine, and I deeply appreciate that.
You're
Where's the
welcome.
best place for them to find you?
You can email me at mark@amperbrand.co, and or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find, but yeah, email me or find me on LinkedIn. That'd be the best place.
Mark, is there anything I didn't think to ask you yet?
Um, no, I can't think of anything.
So the final question for our Freedom Friday is, what does freedom mean to you?
Ooh, what does freedom mean? Um, did you plan on just stumping me several times?
Thanks for this is the gift of my expertise is as a coach, I get to ask lots and lots of questions.
What does freedom mean? Well, okay, freedom is not um, no rules, no limitations. Freedom starts with responsibility,
Truth.
and then within that responsibility, you have choices. And those choices, every single choice has a consequence. Sometimes the consequence is good and sometimes they're bad, but every single choice has consequences. So freedom to me means I have choices and the responsibility to take on the consequence.
Mark, that was so
Does
well
that,
said. So well said. And it's so aligned. So I don't know if you're aware, the brave in our circle is the concept of the freedom to live from the inside out. And brave stands for being responsible to attract value-based relationship experiences. Basically, the R is for responsibility, A attract, V value, and E experiences. And
oh, wow,
everything
that's
you
cool.
said is in beautiful alignment with everything that stands for. So again, just another confirmation of how aligned we are. So
Yeah,
thank you again for taking the time. Thank you for the opportunity for our business owners to business leaders, teams, etc., that we get to share this material with, that it's important for them to take the time to clarify how they're being perceived. And there is responsibility with their message. And it's very, very powerful.
definitely. And if any of your audience has a question or wants a quick critique of something like a flyer, like I did for you all the other day, I'd be glad to do that. That doesn't take me much time at all. It won't be in depth. If you want to do in depth, we can do that too. But I'd be glad to help if I can.
You're a huge blessing. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate and
Sure
thank you
thing.
all for listening.